We thought it only right that once again we go live as Rovers part with manager Ismael by mutual consent. Tell you what, there's just drama left, right and centre. So here are the headlines. So Rovers lose 1-0 to Hull after spirited performance. Ismael pays the price as he loses his job, so it is Damien Johnson who will take over. The transfer window is disappointed, but the Venkies appear in the Epstein files. I'll tell you what, you just can't make it up. Mark, you ready?
Not headlines I was expecting, I'll be honest. Am I ready? Not really, Mike. I was ready to come with a bit of a rant about Saturday because I was hearing some people say, oh, it was better. And I can't believe that we've got rid of him. But equally, I'm very suspicious about it, which we'll get into. And I can believe, but I'm incredibly disappointed that we've not done what we needed to do in the transfer window. So, yeah.
I just can't really get over the drama, the soap opera that is our club. I mean, we go from court cases to managers coming in, not being happy, leaving, so on and so forth. We get promised signings and then the fax machines aren't working properly. People aren't pressing send and all of this. To then more things that are going on and then obviously sacking people, letting other people's contracts go down. And then you're hearing things about things that are happening in the background. And I mean, you were pretty shocked when I just said to you that we're being mentioned in the Epstein files as well.
Oh, we're not being mentioned.
Jeez. It's just if it wasn't happening to our club, I'd be laughing.
I mean, it's not very good for a podcast, but I'm pretty lost for words. It's when you just told me then, it shouldn't surprise me in some ways. But when I thought there might be an investigation that might uncover what's been going on at Blackburn Rovers over the last 15 years, who actually owns them, there's been one theory on that. Who's running the club? What's going on? Is it going to turn out that an agent was more involved than we thought? All these kind of things over the past 15 years. I didn't think it would be also up there with an uncovering of whatever Donald Trump and a former prince has been up to. But listen, nothing surprises me anymore with Blackburn Rovers. Nothing surprises me. I mean, maybe that's why it takes so long to get transfers done. If they're busy on an island, they must have dodgy signals. So maybe that explains it.
Well, I had so many inappropriate jokes absolutely ready to go that I'm not going to do because this is out there and I don't want to have anything against me. So anyway, let's move on. I think the first thing we need to do is kind of go in chronological order a little bit and talk about the game. Once we've done that, it kind of leads into some of our frustrations and so on. And then obviously it goes into ultimately the transfer window and the sacking or mutual consent leaving of Ismael. So let's get on to the game. So obviously it's against Hull City, Hull high flying. We then go and lose 1-0, but this was our initial match reaction.
Listen, it's better today because the formation is more balanced. It gives us more men going forward. There's better players on the pitch. But what isn't any better is we have no clear way of playing going forward. We have no clear patterns of play. I know I hark back to how it's been done under previous managers, but Thomason, Eustace wasn't an attacking manager, but you could see the patterns of play. You could see what he was doing. Every player knew their job for every game. When the ball was going into Gay or Hashi knew where he needed to be. When the ball went wide, the players knew where they should be. This feels like a collection of players that probably a coach defensively, I think it's fair to say. But going forward, they'll have to figure it out for themselves other than get it wide and get it in the box. And they're not good enough to deliver a decent ball, most of them, particularly when Ali Biasu goes off, although his crossing was poor. I don't know what his excuse is going to be today. It's a little bit cold. Pitch isn't great. I could see him flying at the board, actually, and saying he's not being given the tools, but most of the men are back today. I couldn't really fault his team selection. I wouldn't play McGockman myself, but I thought most of his subs were all right. I would have taken Campbell off. But you're picking and it's opinions. But the fact of the matter is, he's got to go because he's not preparing them well enough. And even if he was, it's got to a point now where we are sliding massively and we need just to get a spark from somewhere. And it isn't coming with him. And February is the biggest month we could have when you look at those fixtures. I'm worried. Very worried.
I'm pretty sure I just generally hate football right now. My under-11s were robbed this morning in the cup, and then I feel like we was robbed today. I can't actually pick out what's going on because they dominated. I mean, how Hull are where they are, I don't know. Because I felt like we dominated them. And yes, that final third is still a concern. But generally, I just thought it was a matter of time we was going to get that goal. I was actually concerned in that second half that we was going to score too early and then just be too deep and then they were going to come and equalise. That was kind of going through my head. But I can't have a go at the guys. I'd love to say it's the manager, and there's probably stuff that when I look back I'm going to see. I think it's a luck thing as well. We just got no luck when we need it. You know, like Portsmouth go and pick up their win, and you know now us and West Bromwich is dragged into it. It's just football. It is just football, and it's why we hate it. It's why we love it. I need to look back at it. I can't go in. The only thing I would say is I thought Cantwell was lucky not to be sent off in the first half. I thought there was a few decisions that were a bit ropey, but from the ref, but I think we got away with a couple of silly little things. I thought Tote played really well. I thought O'Riordan played well. Obviously made a couple of mistakes, but generally played well. Yeah, I just think that there's a few things that we need to break down. If we lose Adebiosu this window, I think we are completely done. Mate, I'm all over the place mentally. I'm sorry. This is one of the worst reactions I think I've ever done just because I'm so pissed off with football today.
Yeah, I'm still pissed off today about football, so we may as well continue that rant. Yeah, I mean, I haven't changed my opinion that much. I think the thing is obviously our brains are all like kind of moved on from the game now after what's happened today. We'll get to that, but obviously we've been at work all day. We have lives. We've got jobs, and then we come back and we check our phones, and suddenly Rovers as factor manager signed no one, and we're now trying to think back at the whole game. So our brains all over. I think the one thing I want to say is coming away from it, I do think that there is a lack of luck, and you do need luck when you're in our situation. When you've got the squad of players that we have and the manager that we have, you do need that element of luck. I was shocked that Hull played like they did. I didn't think they were that great. I thought that we played quite well for us, but my standards have just come really, really low. I think it's all relative to me now. I came away being quite frustrated with Cantwell, but I also got frustrated with a lot of people on social media that were saying how well he performed in that first half and that he was superb. I didn't think he was. I thought he should have been potentially sent off. I don't think he's necessarily captain material. Was there anyone else in that game that frustrated you?
There was a number of people, but I'll be honest, I still pinpointed the manager. I think I looked at the game and people were saying, oh, it was better. He didn't change anything in that game or pre-game that I couldn't have done. I could have changed the personnel, and obviously it would naturally get better because better people were on the pitch. But nothing actually got better in terms of the way we were set up. And that's what was frustrating me. I think people were saying, oh, it was better today. They're fourth in the league. I've seen Hull, 4 times now? I've been not impressed with them any of those times. But I just look at us, and I'm looking at it now, and you can't just take the game in isolation, although as much as I'll try to. But we have 1 win in 15, no wins in 9, 4 defeats in 5, 5 defeats in 7. So then I look at the team. It's the tactics that frustrate me. There is zero pattern of play. I think I'll give him some juice first. The defence is pretty solid-ish, and I'll come on to why I'm saying ish. And it's been that way for a while. There's been people stepping in and out, so they clearly done all their jobs to do defensively to an extent. But going forward, by now, he's nearly a year into the job. Everybody should know exactly where they should be, how we're going to attack, how they need to be positioning themselves when the ball's in certain places, and then individually, how we're going to exploit the opposition. Yet no game feels any different. All we do, and all we did at weekend, was get the ball wide and try and get it in the box, and we're crap at that. The crossing is appalling. I am really worried about the set-piece coach. Eustace brought a set-piece coach in. I think I talked about this last week. When under Thomason, it was becoming comical. We were conceding goals for fun. I remember, I think it was Cambridge that even scored against us twice from set-pieces. It was just becoming farcical. We brought a set-piece coach in then who analysed it all, stopped us conceding, slightly better going forward, but stopped us conceding. Now, if he thinks Todd Cantwell can take a corner, then that's his judgment, is all I need to know. It's not good enough. But then I'm looking at Ismael, and I'm comparing him to Eustace because he's the last manager we had. And he's the one who kind of dealt with the same kind of rubbish that he's being served up and the back and behind the scenes rubbish. Eustace had them all knowing exactly where they needed to be to receive the ball, where to be to support your teammate, where to attack to exploit that opposition. There's none of that. He's been at the club nearly a year. I don't think they have any way of knowing how they're going to attack. I think the instructions are get it wide and get it in the box, and nothing beyond that. He statistically was the worst manager we've ever had in our lifetime. But the game fell apart for me. He's took off Forshaw. And Forshaw was knackered, 55 minutes. Fine. I've no issue with then taking him off. And he's put Baradji there. Now, Baradji, decent on the ball. I get why he'd bring him on. But he's not disciplined positionally. And it started to fall apart from that point onwards. Hull's manager watched what happened, made changes, and they cut through us with one touch and a pass time and time again. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. You could see what was going to happen. And all right, we'll come on to the goal. It was offside. But he didn't change it. Instead, he just plugged away with the same crap, wondering why it's not changing. And that's what we've seen week in, week out from him. You either change the formation if Forshaw's got to come off, or bring Montgomery on, who can hold his position. He just allowed them to have a massive hole for them to exploit. Their manager spotted it, made changes, and actually impacted it positively. Ours must have seen it. I saw it. Everyone else saw it. But we didn't look better for me. People have said we dominated the game. We had the ball, but we didn't dominate the game. For me, Hull sat back and let us have the ball. And then they just went, right, go on, come into this trap, bang. So 2-3 touches, 2-3 passes, they're away. So for those people who said we dominated the game, yes, we had 62% possession. 0.5 XG, whatever you want to call that, they had 1.3. We had no big chances, really. They had 4. Oh, Ashley should have done better a couple of times. I get that. We had 9 shots there, 11. We had keeper saved 3 apiece. We didn't dominate that game. Hull dominated the game without having the ball. And we fell into every trap and actually created some for us.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I think I've made a few notes. So I think the Forshaw thing is a really good thing to bring up because I thought he showed his experience and you could just tell with his positioning, he complemented the players around him. And as much as I'm not a fan of having him here, it just shows the situation we're in that actually he was one of our better players. I don't think Baradji and Cantwell can be on the pitch at the same time. They're 2 luxury players that like to hover around in that and try and make it work. I love Baradji. I think he's going to be a really good signing for us. But he's a luxury player that likes to play kind of a free role, getting around, seeing if he can get into a position and create something. He's got this nonchalant way of playing. It's quite strong, but yet relaxed. And I do think that if it clicks with him, he'll be someone that'll be very direct. And that's the thing that really frustrated me with Cantwell. He's just not direct. He seems to be more bothered about his passing stats. So rather than looking forward and actually trying to create something, he seems to turn back. And there was one moment where he was counter-attacking and within probably 5 seconds of us counter-attacking, the ball was back in our centre-backs. And I don't know whether he just looked at Hashi and just thought, no, I'm not getting it to you. This is where the move is going to end. But for me, I think you've just got to do the right thing and trust your teammates. If you're going forward, you've just got to trust your teammates and get that ball. It's not going to help Hashim, Arishta and Jorgensen if you're just constantly turning back on the ball. So it really frustrated me. And like you say, when Baraji comes on, then it just completely goes to pot because then you've got two players just playing that free role. And I felt really sorry for Tronstad because he was trying to hold that position. There was one thing that really frustrated me, actually, was I just don't understand how professional footballers make shooting look so hard. We had like a few shots going into Rose Head, and I'm like, I don't get it. Is it really that hard to play football every single day and train every single day and still do that? So, yeah, going on to the tactical side, it was very Sunday League. It was very Sunday League. It was like, do you know what? Let's just try and get that ball and get going. Obviously, Alibios, who's got a lot of quality. I thought Cashin had a good game as well. But it was very Sunday League, the way that we played. I came away from the game, and I was one of the ones that thought we dominated the game, but not quite saying we dominated the game. It was more we dominated possession, and we should have done more with it. I genuinely thought we were the better side, but it could have just been that Hull was just thinking, you know what, you're not going to beat us, and we'll just get one against you eventually. And obviously that's what happened. I don't actually care that the goal was offside in this one. I think I think that this is the look we're talking about. I had a look at it. The linesman isn't in line with play. I think if we do have VAR, it's not going to happen. But honestly, it just was inevitable that we was going to lose that because, like you say, we had all this possession. I felt like we was dominating possession. Yeah, we just weren't doing anything with it.
No, and I think, listen, I'm not saying I didn't think we were better. I think the game was there for us. That was my other frustration. I just felt like the players were left making it up on the hoop, and it's not all right. You know, they look underprepared. They really do. People can say, well, they're just coming back from injuries. They've been working with it. These aren't brand new players. Jorgensen aside, they're not brand new players to this squad. They should know patterns of play now. They should know their role. We talked about it under Thomason. The under-21s used to know their role when they came into the first team. So I'd had enough a number of weeks ago. But on Saturday, I mean, I didn't think he'd be leaving, but on Saturday, it was just another in a long line of examples.
And I think it's the perfect time for us to move on really into that now.
Just before that,
yeah.
Just a couple of people saying they think we're harsh on Campbell. Listen, we expect a lot of Todd Campbell because of his quality. We've seen it in flashes. I've seen the whole game at the beginning of the season is another one. What I would say on Saturday is the reason I get frustrated with Todd Campbell was actually the example I'll give you. He came out at half time and he's the captain of the team now. So I'm now expecting another level from him. In fact, two examples I'm going to give. The one in the first half or second half, whenever it was, when we were the better team in some ways. We were dominating possession. We had a chance in the game of getting something, and our captain nearly threw that away with a petulant kick that was a red card. The second one I would give is he came out for second half, and they lay a set of cones here, along left-hand side, one at the right. You're supposed to do quick feet on one, quick feet on the other, sprint through. Campbell comes, barely goes through a couple, jogged, half-arsed through them. The rest of the players are following him. They followed him. Tronstad comes out a bit later. He's obviously been doing whatever. The cones are nearly gone away. He still does every single one high knees. Same on the other side and sprint full pelt. So he's doing it when people aren't even paying attention. The captain's supposed to be leading by example, and he set the wrong example. That's why we're harsh on him.
And this is it as well. We're not expecting perfection from him. We're not expecting that. Where he's got the captain's armband, he's on very good wages. He's probably the highest paid at the club. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of potential, and he's just not done it. He should be absolute shining light. He should be using us to get his next payday somewhere else. And I'll be honest, if I was a scout or if I was a manager above us looking at him, I'd turn away.
Yeah,
I really would. I think that if he was performing, say you got a youth player out and you put him into the team and he did everything Cantwell did and played like Cantwell, I would be happy. But he's Todd Cantwell. He is someone that's come with a lot of fanfare from an ability point of view, and that's why our expectations are high. I wouldn't have a go at him if he was just next to nothing and no experience. But he's meant to be one of the most talented players that's come out of Norwich. Where was he before? He was Norwich. Bournemouth. Is that where he started his career?
Norwich, yeah. Then he was at Bournemouth. Then he's been at Rangers. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, there was a lot of teams looking at him. He should be doing more than what he was doing. So I don't think we're being harsh. I think at the end of the day, he's someone that should be doing better than what he is. You've said before, he's not someone that seems to, dig in and get it done when he's got his ankle and his knee strapped up like it is. I get that he's playing with injuries, but sometimes he just doesn't look like he fancies it. And I want my captain to be someone I can be inspired by, and I don't think he's inspirational. But let's move on from the whole game and let's just get straight into the manager situation. So it does feel a little bit out of nowhere today. Now there's rumours that he's fallen out with Rudy. He'd obviously been promised some signings and so on. But all that came in was cashing on loan, Jorgensen and Afolayan. Afolayan will get into, I'm not too sure how much we know about him. But what was promised and what's been delivered is two separate things. But we talked about Ismael. You was the first one out of the two of us to really dig in with the details of what we thought, and then obviously we built on that. And the one thing we said is we wasn't sure what he offered. Tactically, his plan A didn't seem to work, but yet there was no plan B. His subs didn't seem to work. He didn't seem to be prepared for games. He didn't seem to be motivating. I mean, right at the start, we were talking about how he didn't come out onto the pitch to clap the fans. He just turned away. So there was a lot of that going on. Apparently, he had input in signings, which haven't exactly hit the ground running. And ultimately, one thing that you brought up was his coaching. Who's actually improved under him? I mean, he might have brought the odd player in, but who's actually improved under him? The one thing that I always really got frustrated with him was just the amount of excuses he was making. How would you sum up now how he's been in recent memory and obviously for his full career here?
I think he's been dealt a rough hand, but even when he wasn't last year, even when he has had an input, a pre-season, he's had every element, a transfer window, every element a manager could want to say, just give me a year, give me a transfer window, give me a pre-season, all these things that you hear managers. He's had it, and I saw no improvement. I saw no clear way of playing. I saw no... You need something to hang your hat on with a manager, don't you? And that's either... Eustace had the spell where, do you know what? I can see what you're doing. You're trying to keep us in the league. I get that. We'll put a pin in it. Right, now show us in the pre-season what do you be going with. Thomason, we could see what he was trying to do. It was more the signings that we felt were letting him down, and then he let himself down personality-wise. With Ismael, I still, to this day, don't really know what he was trying to do. The stats at one stage of the season would sort of suggest we were just trying to keep it tight and nick wins, but it never felt like that. It just felt more like we could defend, we just couldn't go forward, rather than a plan to do that. There was no counter-attacking threat necessarily. He talked about wanting players that are bigger, faster, stronger. I'm not really seeing it. He talked about high press. I'm not really seeing it. And then there was excuse after excuse after excuse. And he banged on about injuries. We'll be all right when they come back. I know they're only just coming back, but we're not really much better. But, I mean, the example I would use again is at weekend. Ali Biosu's done his hamstring. What a surprise. He wasn't ready to play. His interview after, he said, well, we know where this has come from. He's not been right since the AFCON. So why have you played him? And people say, well, we're desperate to get him on the pitch. Well, if you're that desperate, wait one game or another, because now you're going to miss him for potentially 5 weeks. And I just think he made contradictory statements a lot. He never really looked like he wanted to be there even. He was never making a massive effort with the fans. But I'll sum it up with two things. He played Ryan Hedges at centre-half instead of 1,000,001 other options that he could have had. And in his first interview, we were 5th in the league, and he talked about next season. I knew enough then.
Yeah, it shows the mentality. I got frustrated towards the end when some of our best performing players were the ones that were available at the start of the season. And we was talking about lack of depth, this, that and the other. And there have been injuries, but like we said, it's because he's been flogging them. But the likes of Pratt were there, Litherland, Hitchen, they're all there that we could have dipped into. We've got other players there that are quality. Tyjon's another one that hasn't been managed properly, and you've got to put the manager into that as well. There was potential there. And then obviously from the tactical side, where we've just looked at some of the decisions he's made, it's been very, very strange. And people have asked us, who do we want next? I genuinely don't know. I said I would take anyone. It's going to be Damien Johnson taking over. If he did well, I'd quite happily give in the reins. But I genuinely think we need someone that's going to come in that's going to be strong and offer something out of this. Are they tactically aware? Are they a motivator? Are they good coaches? Whatever. We need something. But I've just got this really sickening feeling that they don't like people with strong characters. They want yes men. They want people that are underneath them that are going to be just doing what they say. And I've got this little feeling that Rudy feels like he's playing Football Manager. That he's going out getting these signings and then he's going to say how he wants them played. And it scares me a little bit. I think it seems to me like it's the fact that there's some very inexperienced people in football running this club right now. And I'm really worried about this next manager. Ismael wasn't the answer, but I'm not sure who is.
Yeah, I think the dismissal of him, or the mutual agreement, which tends to be, listen, we want you to leave, let's come to some sort of agreement over your contract. I think it's more a legal phrase than anything, which means we'll not pay you your full contract, we'll come to an agreement. But I am very suspicious about the timing, twofold. I think number one, we've had a very poor transfer window, and now this is all we're talking about. And it would have been the opposite. We've got a fans forum next Monday. The topic of conversation would have all been about everything else to do with the hierarchy. A bit on Ismael, but really now it's about Ismael and his replacement. Number two, I don't think they want any manager, even during an interview stage, saying, oh, can I have an input into this? I think you need X, Y, and Z. I don't think they want that. They want to have full control. So the easiest way to do that is not have a transfer window to worry about. I think you're absolutely spot on. They've got rid of, if you just look at the facts now, this is not my opinion, they've got rid of an academy manager who'd been there for a significant period of time. David Gore, nobody's mentioned. So that would suggest he's on gardening leave. Steve Waggett's an experienced football man, whatever you think of him. Got rid of him. Still on gardening leave, I think. They've got rid of people at the academy, people at the training ground who've been there for a long period of time. And this is something Benkers have done from day one. Whether it's them, whether it's agents, whoever it is, they've got rid of people in the know who are experienced, who are in the way, who were stopping the way they want to do things. And I think we've got more people who want exactly what you're talking about. I think if I was given the keys to Blackburn Rovers today and somebody said to me, right, you now run the club, I'd make 3 phone calls in this order. I'd ring John Williams, I'd ring Tom Finn, number 2, and I'd say, please help me out. If they couldn't do it, I'd divert my number to Steve Waggett, which I know a lot of people go, oh my God. But in an emergency situation, he knows the club and he's a football man. He brought in John Eustace. He went, sack the rest of the lot of you. We need somebody who knows the league and we're going down. Eustace come in. So I would get him short term to say, right, what do we actually help me here? But number 3 phone call then would be Tony Mowbray. Tony, can you help me till the end of the season? What do we do? But my opinion of who should come in right now is very different. On a personal level, I don't want to see what happens if Tony Mowbray comes back to his football club. He's going to walk back through the door and see it potentially even worse than when he he came in last time, how heartbreaking would that be? He's going to come away from his family again to come and do a job for a club because he cares about the club. But he's going to have zero control. He's going to have more people meddling, and it's not going to end well. I don't want to see that for him. I do not want Tony Mowbray to go through that. And that means that names I might suggest over the next week, 2 weeks, are actually more around who I think could work under this structure than who I actually want as a football manager. And I think that's where I'm at right now. Normally, I would say I don't want somebody like Damien Johnson to get the role to the end of the season. I'm kind of against that. I think, no, you're in the Championship, in the Premier League, you need somebody with a bit of nous. I think we do need somebody with some nous to keep us up. But if he's got the ear of the players, that might be enough to keep us up this year. So I kind of could lean towards that kind of thing. But the club is now going to be getting somebody who can work within a structure and work with the people that are there. It's not about Blackburn Rovers being attractive anymore. It's not about the Championship. It's about who's prepared to put up with what they've got going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And you've got to say, if someone is experienced, unless they're supremely arrogant or being made some promises that they can actually trust, and let's be honest, the previous managers have all come out and said that there's broken promises. All these managers that have said, I was going to get new players, it hasn't happened. I was going to get contracts signed, it hasn't happened. All these things, managers are going to hear about it. They're going to talk to other managers and they're going to say, well, why would I take that job on? So unless they're supremely arrogant or absolutely desperate, they're not going to want it. And if they are really desperate, why are they going to do it? And so if they are really desperate, it means no one else wants them, so they're not good enough. And if they're really arrogant, they're not going to want that kind of person because they want yes men. So you're going to have to get someone who's young and up and coming that just wants an opportunity to show what they can do higher up. And that would probably be a Damien Johnson. But I've got a worrying feeling that Damien Johnson probably isn't the right answer anyway, because I don't think he's going to be allowed to do it. And there's a lot of people saying that he's potentially a yes man. I'm just at a loss now. People are talking about the likes of Gary Rowett, Damien Duff, and loads of names being thrown around. Obviously, Slaven Bilic is another. I don't think Mowbray's going to be on the table. I don't think Bilic is going to be on the table. I think Bilic is too much of a character for them to handle. I don't think we would go for a Damien Duff. That name gets thrown around a lot, but as much as I love Damien Duff as a player, as a manager, he's not really done anything, obviously, at a proper level. Yeah. So it's like a Gary Rowett, but why would he come? Why would these people come? It's the end of the window. They've got what they've got. It's madness, absolute madness. Like you say, the timing of it is absolutely atrocious. And as you've already said, it's all planned. The fact that they've now got rid of a manager and they're going to bring someone in that can't make demands for signings and at all. They know that he's got to come in and cope with what he's got.
Yeah, absolutely, and it raises that question, doesn't it? I think, people talk about Damien Duff. If anyone wants to know why that wouldn't work, look at his interviews when he's the manager. He just wouldn't stand up for it. He'd stand up to them, and it'd be like putting Roy Keane in there or Graham Souness. It wouldn't work. I agree. I don't believe in coincidences, really. And the timing of this, he needed to go weeks ago. I think that's been clear. I think it's been clear it's not been working. Maybe they were hoping it would turn around, but it was never going to turn around.
No, probably not intending on signing anyone. And if you bring in a manager, there's going to be a slight demand that he brings some players with him. And they had no intention on signing players. All this promise of having a real important transfer window. And as much as I thought Cashin had a decent game and Jorgensen's quite good, it's only relative with Jorgensen. We haven't seen enough to really get onto that. But there's no signings of note.
No. They talked in the beginning of the window, or just before it started, that the signings will be different this time. And they've said this in previous fans forums. Rudy's turned around and said, listen, the signings in the summer will be the bulk of where the transfer work is done. In January, they'll be reactive to what we need, but they'll be very different because they'll need to be Championship ready to go, either proven in England or in the Championship, or ready to hit the ground running. Well, Jorgensen had barely played and had his pre-season, never played in England. Cashin hadn't really played, but okay, that one kind of fits in. Arthur Lyons barely played as well. I think he's had one start all season. And all right, he's played for Bolton, but he's been at Sao Paulo for 4 years. So he might be a world beater. But these are not the ready-to-go championship players that we needed to make an impact. You've mentioned Rowett. Oxford decided he wasn't good enough for whatever reason to keep them in the league. They felt it wasn't. No, they might be right. They might be wrong. I think we were obviously linked with Richie Wellens before, but now they're having a bit of a shocker. One I will try and stick out there who might cope with the structure because he's used to a foreign way of working is Marty Cifuentes. I think he did a job at QPR of what we kind of need, which is making, as you always say, my favourite phrase, chicken soup out of chicken crap. His win percentage wasn't amazing. It was a 33 or so. It was Eustace-ish. But what he basically did is they signed nobody ever, and they were just bargain basement signings, and he got the best out of them. And I actually think he's tactically very good. If you have a look on YouTube, he's done one of those tactical mascots. He's insightful. It didn't quite work at Leicester, but I had Leicester down to go down at the beginning of the season. I think they're an absolute basket case. And when you come down from the Premier League with a lot of Premier League players that are used to playing in that league, we've seen how many teams struggle. If West Ham came down, it'd be the same for a number of teams in that situation. So I don't really blame him for that. I think somebody like that, you've half a chance who maybe wants to prove himself again in the Championship. But I think you're right. I think you look at our past three managers. Thomason came in a summer because he wanted to make a name for himself in England. Eustace came because he'd been binned off by Birmingham, albeit harshly, but he needed something to give him a chance again, and we gave him that. And I think he trusted Waggett, so that's why he came. Then you've had Ismael, who's been binned off by every team by Barnsley and was never getting a shot anywhere else. He's come in. So you're looking at a manager more along the lines of Ismael. So if you want to have a look who they're going to try and pick out, have a look who's in Last Chance Saloon, I would say.
Yeah. It's crazy that we're in this situation once again, where we're just questioning, the motives of the owners. Well, not necessarily the owners, but the your people in power. Has Gested got any links to anyone that would come in and do it? Has he got a plan? I don't know. Because it's all seems to be his master plan and being some sort of crazy scientist that's trying to put things together. Nothing's worked so far for him, and I just can't see this being any different. I'll only be happy if we get someone with any experience, but like I said, anyone with any experience wouldn't touch this club and these owners and this situation with a barge pole. And when there's just constant reports of managers leaving, talking about broken promises, I just can't see anyone coming in. I mean, people have talked about Will Still, obviously a manager that could come in, but what's he really done other than being able to talk French and English? And then you've got Wagner. He's another one. But again, is he someone that would really want to come in?
He'd fit the mould of needing somebody to take a punt on him again. I think one of the other things that we're going to have to talk about is we've got the 27 men now who are vying for the 25-man squad to say with no players. Who's picking that? That's Adam Owen and Gested. So hopefully that means Harry Pickering gets back in the mix. But two players are going to not be given squads. Now, I suspect one's George Pratt after he's had a bit of a knock and we've got 8 centre-halves. But we're so imbalanced. So imbalanced. We've got 4 potential left backs, 8 centre halves, 2 right backs, a load of wingers, hardly any strikers. So
but that's what I'm talking about. They seem to be playing Football Manager with our club, and they don't understand how it goes. I mean, we've already talked about Gested as a player, wasn't the most reliable person, but I'm okay with us being a feeder club. If someone wants to come improve themselves and move on as a player, as a manager, as a coach, whoever, I'm more than happy for that to happen. I just want it to be that we're actually supporting that manager. And because we haven't, that's why I just don't think anyone's going to want to come in and do anything.
No, listen, the links to Ali Biossu moving on I'm fine with that in the sense of I don't want him to leave. But to sign a player for what, a reported 800 grand and sell him for 7 million, that's what we should be doing. That's what we have to do as a football club. That's what we've always done as a football club. The issue is, the way Venky seems to work is that there's your budget at the beginning of the season, crack on with it. If you bring players in, it's not a case of, right, well, you can keep 50% of it, or actually you do what you want with the transfer fees and the wages even. That's your budget. You have some flexibility. So why would you sell these players? Because none of it comes back into your transfer pot. So how are you ever going to progress as a club? All that happens is the budget stays the same every year, regardless of how much you bring in. It's absolutely bonkers way to run a football club.
Yeah, and I'm trying to refresh now and my feed and just seeing who we're being linked to, and no one can really see any. I'm not seeing any names there that I think would actually happen. It's a crazy time. But like we're seeing here, we leave January a striker less than when we went into this window. This transfer situation we're in, it's mad. Like you say, we're imbalanced, and we went in with all these promises. And granted, the promises came from Ismael, and he probably wasn't being told the truth himself. But they've let Gay go, and I was more than happy with that. And he was replaced effectively with Jorgensen, who isn't really a striker. Afolayan, we don't really know much about, but we know he's not the most prolific player. Jack Batty's left, which is obviously, it's a shame because we thought he was going to be good, but he's gone. But it is like we're just preparing to get into League One.
Well, I mean, they've talked loads and loads about things around, we'll not let players get into the last 18 months. And if we do, we'll be selling them then in that case. We can't, otherwise he'd have gone earlier. I mean, the fact we're left with him is, he couldn't even get on the bench.
So for those listening, this is talking about Taylor Gardner Hitman. Mark Atherton's put on saying, can we send TGH back to Birmingham instead of putting him in the 25?
We can drive him back, but no. But that's another of Ismael. That's him, isn't it? That one's on him. But instead is the next manager. Well, I mean, I know people say, he's playing Football Manager and stuff like that. I think he wants the control of it. But I have no issue with people being ambitious. So Rudy Gested's come out of playing and he's ambitious. He wants to make a name for himself. Well, I've no issue with that, because if he does, then that's going to be good for us. I mean, he's making a name for himself now, but a positive one, I mean. But the problem you've got is we give him so much free rein now. What do we do when he then disappears and we've got such an imbalanced squad? And he's proven now he can't stick to his word. I'm not saying he doesn't want to, but talks into 18 months. Cargbo is. We've just signed Afolayan for 18 months. There's a knock on here that's happening. There's players running into the last 6 months of the deals. I mean, we could be faced, if he goes by his at 12 months, they either sign a deal or we sell them, with losing Tote, Tronstad, Hedges could be gone. You could have Ohashi could be going. You could have, Alabiosu's probably going to go, if we're being honest. Carter's going to go. Wharton, maybe, if he's not getting a sniff. And you're just thinking, these are the mainstays of the team again. There's no building blocks here.
And just thank you for Charlie for the donation as well. We really appreciate that. So I really enjoy every podcast, guys. Always great knowledge from both of you. Well, not sure about that, but thank you. How do you feel about probably never seeing Hedges play centre-back again? Mate, I would have a team of Ryan Hedges. Everyone knows that. I'd give him the manager's job if it was up to me. He can do no wrong in my eyes. Talking about the current squad then. So the squad's the squad. We're going to see a couple of players obviously dip out. There's potential of some moving on. Is it a case of whoever comes in is going to be fighting an uphill battle, or is there enough there for them to work with? Because my opinion is there is enough there, but now you've got that. They might not fit your tactics, and now you've got to do horses for courses. There might be some players that don't play quite as often because they might not fit your tactics, but also maybe you're going to have to change your tactics. How are you feeling about if you got someone in that could motivate them? do you think this squad has enough to stay up?
Yeah. If we'd have brought in John Eustace now and we'd have gone, when he came in this time, I think the squad's good enough. I think there's a good enough starting 11. I think there's enough there. There's not enough that we shouldn't have gone and bought another option. I think if you're playing 4-2-3-1, yeah, you've got two strikers, but we've no backup. We've no under 21 coming through. Obviously, we signed this lad in the 21s from Arsenal, but he's a winger again. Jorgensen, I've seen him now play, 4 times. I actually think he looked more impactful playing up front, so I would consider that as another option. But I think if you go and strip the team back to 4-2-3-1, you keep a solid base and you look for a counter-attack, there is something there. There is, if you want to play a bit more technical on the ball, you could do that. There is some flexibility within it, albeit I think we've got a really imbalanced squad and there's too many central midfielders, very few of whom are good enough. There's too many centre halves, or much of a muchness when that we actually don't have enough strikers. But I think there's enough in it. For me, I'm looking at the team. I would go now probably tomorrow night. I'd go with Tote. I'd go Alibiosu if he's fit. If not, you're going to have to play Miller. I'd have O'Riordan. Probably have Cashin next to him. I'd have Pickering. I'd have Forshaw and Tronstad. That's not a bad base that you're building from. And then you can take your pick. It's kind of what you like. Personally, I'd be binning Cantwell onto the bench. I'd have Marista in the 10 role. I'd have Owashi in the 10 role ahead of him right now. I'd have Johnson if he's fit. If not, Jorgensen. I think Jorgensen, we're in danger of getting him injured though. He's not played any football. Now he's playing loads. Stick him on the bench. Bring him on when Johnson's tired, because otherwise you've no options. 60 minutes, get some pace, stretching them. And I think there's a role for Cardboard to play. I said it last week. When he comes back fit, somebody can get the best out of him. He's basic, but we need a bit of pace now. Afolayan hopefully will bring that when he's ready next summer. But I think there's enough in amongst it to get a decent starting 11 with 2 or 3 options off the bench. And that's enough. If you have a manager who can get enough out of them, and there are ones out there. I mean, I bang on about Nathan Jones being the example. That's because you look at Charlton's squad, they're crap. And he's going to keep them up just about if we are not careful. And that's because he's a nightmare. I would hate to see him anywhere near Eagle Park, but he gets the best out of them. And there are managers like that out there. I don't want one just like that, just for the record.
Well, it's weird you were talking about the starting 11, because I did actually start jotting down what mine would be, and they're very similar to yours. I had Alibiosu and Pickering as my wing backs. Centre backs I was obviously a little bit unsure on because we've got some injuries, and it depends on how that came about. But I would be quite happy with O'Riordan there. Cashin obviously would need to see what he was like. Tronstad's an obvious one, but that other centre mid, I was relatively impressed with Forshaw when he has played this year, and that's because my standards are quite low now. Yep. But then when you're going forward, I would have Jorgensen on the wing with Good Johnson up top, and that left wing is a struggle because it could be a Marista, it could be a Hedges, and that number 10. I'm sorry, I just wouldn't have Cantwell in the team. I'm the same as you, but I wouldn't necessarily have Ohashi at the moment. I think Ohashi needs a lot of time away from the team and maybe some pressure taken away from him. I want to see what this Afolayan's got to offer. But considering they're supposed to have gone and got some players this year and spent some money, I'm still concerned about that front four. I mean, Janet's just put a comment here. Let me just put this one up, saying nothing wrong with back to basics 4-4-2. Well, funnily, you should mention that this is actually something that has been discussed in the FA. When you do your badges, they do actually discuss the fact that we might be going back to 4-4-2 because it covers the pitch a lot more. And there is actually some people that are meant to be going back towards that, and then potentially you could have Good Johnson and Jorgensen up front together. It's interesting.
It is. I think the only issue that you're saying there's nothing wrong with 4-4-2. The issue we've got with it is we've only got 2 strikers, 3 if you include Jorgensen. I absolutely agree. I think Ohashi needs a rest. Jorgensen and Good Johnson, I'd like to see them as a pair. I'd said that from the first time I saw Jorgensen. I think if you're playing a 10, it's probably Baraji. has to be in a shout. I think that's Marishta's best position, though. That's the problem. I think if you're going to put Owashi anywhere, put him there. Baraji, exactly. I think the problem is, again, the balance. You are probably looking at having to put Marishta on the left at the minute, and then you're probably going to have to put Jurgensen on the right. One market shut. Gary O'Brien, sorry. We can loan players out to the National League and below, but we can't loan anybody in or back to
free transfers are still open, but obviously if you're a free transfer at this point of the season, are you any good?
And we've got 27 men, not 25 for the man
that
squad.
That is the other thing.
And I think, full. We've got to bin some off. And when we've got 8 centre-halves, I mean, I wouldn't mind any combination of them centre-halves playing, really. I think McLaughlin, the more I see, the more I don't like. But I am looking at us and thinking, actually, is Sean McLaughlin going to miss out? No, he's not. Or Aiden's not. Carter's not. Wharton, it depends. I mean, he's took a while to recover from this one. But I think the one who's going to miss out here, because obviously Hitchinson doesn't matter because of his age, George Pratt's going to miss out. And
that's a shame. That is a shame. I mean, we talked about Hayden Carter and Scott Wharton not playing much this year, and obviously they've had their injuries, but there's some talent there that can come back into it. I mean, we've got 3 left backs effectively. I mean, do you need 3 left backs? I just, like you say, I just think that they've gone trigger happy on a lot of signings and panic signings instead of just filling the holes with the players that they wanted and leaving it at that. It does seem to me like that some of the signings were kind of panic signings. And it's now proving to be that we've got this unbalanced side. This next appointment is very important for the future of the club. And I do actually think it's going to be a temporary signing, a temporary manager as well. I can't see it being someone that's going to come in and be someone that we look at and go, do you know what? That's the manager for the next 3 or 4 years easily. It's going to be someone that's going to be temporary, that's just going to come in, one last hurrah, or something like that. You know, just one last job.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the current odds just so people know. The top 5 or 6 are Wagner, Bilic, Mowbray, Duff, Rowett, Rooney. I'm going to rule out Russell Martin. Please God, no. I'm going to rule out Rooney just because I'd rather stick pins in my eyes. Rowett, I mean, he didn't do well at Oxford, did he? And I would have thought he was a steady-ish appointment. Duff, it wouldn't work. There'd been a murder. Tony Mowbray, I would do that if that was me, but I wouldn't do with this backing. Bilic, I think similar to Duff. I think David Wagner, I can see why he's favourite, because he ticks the boxes we talked about before. Somebody who probably would take it because what else? He's not exactly flooded with offers, and that kind of fits the bill.
I think mine will be between Rowett and Wagner. I don't think Bilic is even close to it, and I don't think Mowbray would say yes. I think Mowbray's been scorned with what happened last time. I think he'd keep away. I don't think he needs the job. I don't think he'd want the job. I think it'd be Wagner or Rowett for me. If you used to say to me now, pick one or the other, I actually think it could potentially be Rowett for me.
I go Cifuentes. If I'm being honest, I think he plays the style.
Is he available?
Yeah, he's just gone from Leicester. I think they'll want to try and get a name for themselves, and I think they'll try and do the same. So I could see them trying to get somebody like that in. I think if you're going to have this structure for it to work, you need to have somebody who is used to a foreignish model, because that's pretty much what it is. But I agree with you. I think this will be a tide us over, because let's be honest, if we go into League One, you're going to need a very different manager. And it's very much a what we need right now situation, and that's very different. Yeah.
Well, apparently he's odds on to take the Watford job. Is Cifuentes.
Yeah, come on, we're better than Watford.
Yeah, what would you want to live down there?
The man who sunk us when he put the kids out and sent us down. Remember him arguing with Rovers fans? Yes, I do remember that. But, memories are short. And just Mr. Boyce, obviously, massive friend of the pod. Big Sam's podcast are pushing. Who are they pushing, Mr. Boyce?
I'm just looking through all the odds now, and it's going to be a typical Rovers thing that none of them are going to be manager. It's going to be someone completely random. It's going to be another Rudy random that they've got some stats of in the second tier of the Belgian league.
Mr. Boyce is telling us that Big Sam's being pushed by his own podcast. I'm all for it. I'm on record as saying sacking Sam Allardyce was not the issue. It's then who they replaced him with. I hated going to watch that football.
I remember, yeah.
But for many, many reasons, I'd love to see him come back. I just think he's a man who doesn't forget. I think he'd do right by the club, and then I think he'd do right by himself.
Well, again, Big Al Capone, thank you for the donation. Mike for head coach and Mark as his assistant. I'll be honest, my mate messaged me and said he might apply for it just for the joke and have me as his assistant and goalkeeping coach, because he's actually got the qualifications to get to that level. And he said he wanted to do it to see if he could get an interview and see what they said to him. I'll see if he can do that. I'm just looking at some of the comments now, and obviously there's names being mentioned like Lee Carsley. Obviously, someone's mentioning Gary Rowett again. Lee Carsley might be someone that would be interesting, but I don't think he'd be interested. I think he's just someone that would move on. I genuinely believe it's going to be someone completely random from Belgium, Scandinavia, somewhere like that. It's going to be someone random.
Yeah, so... Yes, I'll tell him. So when Thomason went, so obviously our director of football at the time was the one and only, his name's escaping me, Mike, Greg Broughton. And he wanted to bring, he drew a shortlist up, and he wanted to bring another foreign manager. He wanted to bring, I think he was... the guy who was pulling up many, many trees at, is it the Swedish Cup at the time or Norwich, whoever it was? He was linked. I'll find his name when you're talking in a minute. But he wanted to bring him in. And Steve Wygott went, absolutely not. We are in the pap. What we need right now is someone who knows what they're doing. A bit like if you play signing somebody in January. And he took charge of the situation, brought in John Eustace and saved us because we were sliding one way. My real concern now is who is that football experienced head in the background? No. There isn't. So we could well end up going down let's have a look at this because this guy's doing great on. Look at his win percentage, 70%, forgetting that he's playing against the Dog and Duck. These are the people that have signed Dion Deneva. So, we signed Albiasu from the same club, didn't we? So I'm just going to have a quick look who their manager is because it might be worth a punt on him.
Well, before you do that, another super chat from Katie. Hey, Mike and Mark, honestly, I'm so deflated. We have this conversation every year and nothing changes. I'm starting to hate this club and it's not a nice feeling. And to be honest, Katie, you're not the only one. I think a lot of people are feeling like that right now. And it's really sad. We are a very proud club. And yeah, it's just a shame we are where we are. Is this the one you're thinking of, Mark? Keiji Knutson?
Yes, that's who it was. That's who we wanted to bring in. Yeah. Right, so I've had a quick look, Mike. This is weird. I didn't know this. I'm sure other people did. So the team where Dion Deneva and Ryan Albiasu came from, the chairman, great name, Ken Chu, big fan of trains. Their owner is Vincent Tan. But their manager, Vincent Tan, as in Cardiff's Vincent Tan, is Michael Jonkier, Belgian football coach, 36.
It's going to be someone random. We're going to be throwing these names out and they're going to have got their stats. They're going to be looking at someone and you never know. I've said this before, you never know. It could work out and they could end up being absolute genius decisions that they're making and we end up doing well. I just can't see it happening right now.
No. I am very worried who's picking the next man, which is why if I was picking, I'd just ask Tony Mowbray to do a job till the end of the season, but we're not. We're not able to get some of the right people in at the background. So, yeah, I am concerned about that. I don't think it was nuts. You know, I'll remember next week. I'll have a look. It was at the time. I'll remember. It was, yeah, it's going to bug me, but it'll take me too long to search. I'll have a look.
Well, I think that's the hour. Obviously, thank you everyone for coming into the comments. Sorry we couldn't talk about all of them. We do appreciate it all. This is obviously just an initial reaction. We finished work. We turned our phones on. We saw all this happening. I went off to coach. You had your things on as well. So we sat down. We've talked about it. Hopefully next week we'll be able to put some stuff together. But just before we go, we do have 2 games to quickly skip over. One is Sheffield Wednesday tomorrow night, and then obviously Norwich away. Is Norwich at home or away?
Away. 12:30 on Saturday.
Exactly. Not exactly a great time to travel all that way. It's not an easy place to get to. Do you think we're going to get a new manager bounce off Damien Johnson tomorrow night?
I feel more confident now we've got him. Yeah, I think they'll rally a bit. I think the one massive positive about this is it's the right time to bring somebody in. It should have been earlier, but the run of fixtures is do or die, which is why I wanted to twist. I don't necessarily think we'll definitely stay up without him, but I knew we weren't with him was what I sort of stuck by the last few weeks. I think the run of fixtures is doable. I think if you get the right man in before Saturday, just that boost alone could get you over the line at Norwich. But I think, yeah, Johnson galvanising them should beat Sheffield Wednesday. We have to get 3 points there. The fans will be a bit more, as much as the peed off we have on upstairs, they'll get behind them now. The focus will be on the pitch, probably, as much as we'll be chanting Benke's out a little bit. They'll be on the pitch. They'll be supporting Johnson. They'll be supporting the players. They'll get over the line tomorrow. If they get a new man in, I actually think they could do something on Saturday just with that. Let's impress the gaffer. And I think the run of games is favourable. So if they don't completely mess it up, I think they'll still just about get away with it. Any longer than they wouldn't have done. I mean, we could be sticking names out there forever, but something like this would not surprise you. Let's announce Phil Jones, the manager's role. Wouldn't surprise you.
Well, Rudy's going to have some mate that wants a job in the agency that he's in, so there's going to be something there. There's going to be a link, but hey-ho, it is what it is. There is obviously a lot of psychological stuff that goes behind a new manager bounce, like players feeling like they've got a new lease of life, they can prove something new. Normally players that are on the outskirts of the team will maybe get a chance. I just hope we get that new manager bounce because we need something to celebrate, and there's nothing to celebrate at the moment. Hopefully it's going to come tomorrow night against Sheffield Wednesday. Let's hope. But Mark, I think we've talked enough there about the manager without knowing much.
Yeah,
are we going to have a new manager by the weekend?
Well, who knows? So they put a statement out saying that Ismael had left and they'll be making no further comment until the new manager's announced. Then they put another one out saying, because they'd obviously forgot to say who was in charge, saying Damien Johnson. So who knows? The first one kind of implies that they know who they want. I think not before the weekend. I think they'll announce it after. And if you were a new manager and you're going away to Norwich, you probably think, I'll let that one slide first because they're on a good run of form. I mean, will we see Afolayan? He was on the bench, wasn't he, at weekend? He was on the bench the week before, 17th and 14th of Jan. He's played friendly games before that, but not many. He's not played since November, so that bodes really well. And then just to touch on the other lad we've signed, Osman Kamara, pretty highly rated from Arsenal. Not that much because they're letting him go on a permanent deal. He's played a few games for us, though, hasn't he? I think he scored in his behind close or his trial game at weekend. For those asking in terms of outgoings, yes, Jake Beaty has gone permanently. Charlie Olsen has gone permanently to Altrincham, I think it was. And we have extended the loans of James Edmondson. And the other one's escaping me. He's already on loan. I can't think for a second.
I did see it, but I can't remember.
Yeah, no. But basically, we haven't signed the striker we needed. And we haven't actually found, as probably as big and important, we haven't found loans for people like George Pratt, Hitchinson, so they're going to be around the squad. Harrison Wood, thank you, Kieran Webber. So we should really have found loans for these players. Dion Deneva probably should have had a loan, but we can't afford to. Should Henriksen have had a loan? Arguably. But hopefully it's a clean slate. Hopefully we see the likes of Pickering getting back in. Hopefully we see Good Johnson being fit enough to go. And, you know, if we start with a win tomorrow, I think we will, then we've got something to build on. Get a new manager. It doesn't mean we can forget about everything, but we need some belief and some hope back in ourselves, because I haven't had any for a while. I didn't think they'd get rid of him. I think it's the right decision. I think it's late, but not too late.
No, let's hope something works out. And then obviously next week we'll be reviewing the 2 games and previewing obviously the next games. Hopefully we'll be talking about a little bit more in depth about potential managers. We should have a little bit more detail. We'll also have details of how the squad finally looks as well. So I think next week's going to be a proper bumper podcast. So yeah, I'd definitely charge your phone for that one.
Just on that one, everyone, I've not even told Mike this. I need to apologise. So it's supposed to be the Fans Forum next Monday night. I've actually got a job interview, and it isn't for the Rovers job on Monday. This isn't even a wind-up. I do have an interview on Monday. So I probably can't do Monday, Mike. So you can either find a substitution, or we could potentially do it the Tuesday. But yeah.
I could never get through this without my star player. We'll reschedule, but we'll let you know what day we're doing it. And hopefully we're not in the Epstein files, as I announced at the start, and we will be back. So obviously everyone wish Mark good luck for his interview, and hopefully the forum is nice and enjoyable for you.
Well,
Mark, thanks.
I have said I can't go because I don't know what time about the interview, and there is potential of day 2. So at the minute I'm not going. I'm certainly not chairing it. So before everyone looks at the minutes and thinks, why is Mark not there? What's going on? Has he been booted off after he said something or other on the pod? But if I get everything wrapped up, or if I mess it up that much, I will have time. I will try and turn up to the pod, to the forum. I'll certainly turn up to the pod on the Tuesday.
Nice one. Well, cheers, Mark.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much.
And thank you to everyone and all the super chats this week. Obviously, keep liking, sharing, doing all the good stuff with the podcast. And we'll see you next time.